Welcome to Life Change Ministry. Hi, my name is Susan Jackson, author and founder of Life Change, and I wanted to come on rather quickly with a prophetic message. What happens next? And so, what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk about what happens prophetically after we had the leader of Iran killed, brought down. What happens next? What takes place? Well, one of the things I believe that's going to happen next is I believe that the Council of Peace is going to go ahead and they're going to want to go ahead and continue with Gaza and continue the move with Gaza. We have an eclipse 3-3, a blood moon, which is in on at the foot of Leo, um, which represents the lion of the tribe of Judah, right? Um, so with the blood moon coming in a couple days, we can assume that war will continue. Um, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but based on the stars up in the heavens, it looks like war will continue for a season. And only time will tell what will unravel and what will happen as a result of that. Um, Another thing I believe they're going to do is they're going to want to go ahead and go ahead with the Cyrus Accords. And your people are like, well, what is the Cyrus Accords? Well, let's check it out. Let's look into it for a little bit and let's find out in detail what all this is and what it could mean. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get this started. On January 20th, 2025, President Donald J. Trump returned to the White House, signaling a shift in U.S. foreign policy with a renewed emphasis on securing American interests abroad. A central focus of his previous admin was the Abrahamic Accords, which sought to normalize relations between Israel and several Arab nations, reshaping diplomatic alignments in the region. Now, this is the Jerusalem Post, okay? And this was done on January 20th by an Aiden Panahi, okay? While these agreements established formal ties, their effectiveness in stabilizing the region remains debatable, as Iran's aggressive influence and regional destabilization continues to pose an existential threat. Now, in his second term, the question is how to address the unresolved challenges that continue to undermine regional security. Iran's regime remains the principal driver of instability in the Middle East, actively fueling hostility toward Israel and the West through its resistance network. This necessitates the implementation of the Cyrus Accords, a strategic framework to ensure Iran's post-regime integration into a cooperative regional system. As Iran's international crisis deepens, all indicators point to its collapse becoming increasingly likely. The fall of the Islamic Republic is a critical global security and economic necessity. I'm going to say that again. The fall of the Islamic Republic is a critical global security and economic necessity. The regime's fall would cut off the world's top state sponsors of terrorism, dismantling its support for extremist groups. Additionally, Iran's return as a strategic ally to Israel would shift the regional balance, fostering new security and economic partnerships. So basically, reading this article, we can assume that what's going to take place in the near future is that the Board of Peace is going to continue rebuilding Gaza, and the Cyrus Accords are going to be implemented and put into place. Probably they may pick Reza, because Reza has already spoken that he would go along with the Cyrus Accords. And so we can look forward to these things taking place and happening, okay, as Gaza goes up, as they start building up Gaza. Western hesitation in supporting regime change is actively reinforced by Islamic Republic's influence network in the West. The regime has embedded its narratives into policy discussions throughout lobbyists, media figures, and individuals who falsely present themselves as opposition voices. Many of these actors, funded by Western governments under the guise of supporting the Iranian people, have instead used these resources to amplify regime narratives. deceiving their benefactors into unknowingly sustaining pro regime propaganda. These figures misrepresent the Iranian people's demands, reducing them to minor reforms. Excuse me. Like adjustments to gender apartheid laws in the unveiling of the hijab, while ignoring their call for the full regime collapse and democratic transformation. Some weaken Iran's territorial integrity by pushing ethnic divisions, while others advocate futile negotiations that only prolong the regime's survival. This manipulation of Western discourse has stalled decisive action, prolonging the regime's survival. Despite years of regime backed propaganda distorting Western perception, the reality inside Iran tells a different story. The Iranian people have decisively rejected reformist illusions, demanding total regime change. A structured transition plan is already in place, designed to ensure stability, governance, and territorial integrity while granting the Iranian people the final say on their future governance through a national referendum. Former Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi stands at the forefront of this transition plan. He is overwhelmingly supported in street demonstrations and public demands inside Iran, as well as among the Iranian diaspora. He has outlined a strategic framework for Iran's liberation and reconstruction. His five-pillar approach to his purpose includes maximum support for domestic resistance, maximum pressure on the Islamic Republic, mobilization of the Iranian diaspora, inducing defections with the regime, and establishing a clear political and economic vision for Iran's future. Strategically, these efforts are divided into two phases. First, the struggle to dismantle the current regime, and second, the establishment of democratic government. As domestic resistance intensifies and reports emerge of fractures within the security forces, the regime's grip on power appears to be weakening, suggesting that its fall could be imminent. The transitional period will not descend into disorder, but will follow a methodical and transparent process. A constituent assembly will draft a democratic constitution with public discourse mirroring open governmental discussions seen in Western democracies. A national referendum will ultimately determine Iran's system of governance, ensuing that the new leadership emerges from a legitimate and representative process. Territorial integrity will be safeguarded, eliminating concerns of factional fragmentation or foreign interference with Iran's sovereignty. For Trump, the Cyrus Accords provide an opportunity to secure his legacy as the architect of lasting Middle East stability. While the Abrahamic Accords addressed diplomatic relations among Arab states and Israel, they did not tackle the fundamental issue of Iranian sponsored conflict. The Cyrus Accords will finalize his vision, ensuring that a post regime Iran becomes a stabilizing force rather than a power vacuum. However, securing regional stability is only part of the equation. A free Iran will also unlock significant economic opportunities for the West, particularly for the United States and for Israel. And I assure you it's the other way around. A liberated Iran will not only bring stability, but will also create a win-win scenario, which I just the Lord is bringing to my mind how Iran doesn't have any water. The people of Iran, the rivers running dry, and there's no water for the people of Iran. We know that, excuse me, almost over 30,000 people were killed with this last regime, and you know some believe that he was trying to bring about the fifth imam. He was trying to bring about the 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 Mahdi, because the Mahdi is supposed to rise during a lot of chaos and turmoil and death. He's supposed to rise in these things, and so I believe that's what this Iranian leader was doing. He was trying to cause such havoc and death on the people to bring about this Mahdi, which again goes along with end times, guys. I mean, the signs are there, and people need to wake up and smell the coffee, because the coffee is brewing and it smells really good, but you've got to at least smell it to discern what is going on. And that's what I see is such a lack of discernment on people today. They lack discernment, and I'm not putting anyone down. I am calling it out as it is and saying that we need to put on our discernment and discern the times and seasons that we're in. And so moving on, a liberated Iran will not only bring stability, but also create a win-win scenario, unlocking vast economic opportunities for both the Iranian people and the West. Decades of regime mismanagement have left Iran's infrastructure in dire need of investment, from water resources and energy to roads, telecommunication, and modernized oil and gas facilities. See, now we know that Iran needs water. They're in desperate need of water. There was a big, huge earthquake of 5.3, I believe, in Iran just recently. Um, this revitalization will modernize Iran, enhancing living standards and establishing the country as a key driver of prosperity in the Middle East, benefiting both regional stability and global markets. Iran's people are poised for change. So get this. What can we see going forward? I'm going to prophesy in the name of Jesus. Now, I'm no prophet, but I'm going to prophesy. Okay. I'm going to give you a prophetic estimated guess. Okay. What I see could potentially happen is they're going to put this guy in, and he's going to build trust he's going to build trust with everybody, because Reza is already saying that he's going to go along with the Cyrus Accord. We can assume that the temple is going to start being constructed in Israel. We can assume that there will be a time of false peace, because it's on 3/3. We're having the last blood moon on Purim. We can assume that these are just the beginning stages of what the Lord is warning Israel about. This blood moon eclipse, I believe Israel will get to see, and it is in the lion. It's at the foot of the lion, okay, which represents the 12 tribes of Israel, which represents Judah, okay. So we have this eclipse in the lion in the heavens, all right. And so this is significant. So with these things that we see taking place with the sun, with the stars, with the moon, okay, we can assume, now let me make this clear, we can assume that these things are going to continue. Excuse me. We don't know who's going to step up and try to intervene. We don't know, but what we do know based on the stars is that God is speaking, and he's speaking that there's going to be a time of war. Okay, so we need to, and this is the last blood moon of the 3. Okay, so what does that mean? Does that mean that this is the last 6 months of war and then there's going to be a time of peace? Or what does that mean? Is this World War III, 3 blood moons on Purim? Is it just for the Jews that, God is letting the Jews know that they're going to be at war for 3 years after what took place on that terrible day, October 2023? This could mean several different things, but the fact that this blood moon is on 3/3 is prophetic just by itself. And then to be on Purim, a Jewish holiday, huge significance. So moving on. The international community must be ready. The Cyrus Accords must be conceptualized and implemented now to ensure that when the regime collapses, a stable democratic Iran emerges as a partner for peace rather than a vacuum for chaos. Hear me. And I believe that's what God is warning is coming, is a potential vacuum for chaos. Hezbollah, you can have Hamas all trying to go in through Iran and try and do something. And so it's imperative, all right, that they move quickly and implement as fast as they can to ensure that when the regime does collapse, which, I mean, the leader is dead, a stable democratic Iran emerges. Okay, so their job isn't over yet, it's just starting. This is Israel's chance to secure its long term safety. Okay, this is America's strategic opportunity to reassert global leadership. This is the world's movement to invest in sustainable peace. The choices we make now will. Here is a clip, rather quickly, of Reza, the King Prince, and his takes on a path to the Cyrus Accord. Okay, so let's listen to him rather quickly.
Evil force standing in the way of that peace. It is not our nation that is making war, exporting terror, and destabilizing the region. It is an occupying regime, a violent theocracy that has no legitimate claim to speak for our people. Thank you. For over 4 decades, the Islamic Republic has hijacked the identity of Iran, using our name and our resources not to serve our people, but to spread hatred and division. This regime does not represent the soul of our nation. It does not represent the legacy of Cyrus. It does not represent the future of Iran.
They changed the flag.
Iranian people are rising up, not because someone asked them to, but because it is in their national interest and in their national character to fight for freedom.
Now, I believe in my heart he will say anything that he has to get in where he wants to be, because he will change things. And in the right time, he is going to turn on all of them, I believe, in my heart. And we will see his true colors.
Not waiting for permission. They are not begging for handouts. They are not passive players in someone else's geopolitical game. This is our movement. This is our fight.
Yes.
And it is our destiny to determine.
So let's learn a little bit more about these Cyrus Accords. Here's an article here, which was done 1/15/2026 by Reza Lin. It says, support Republic Iran. Support for terrorist groups will cease immediately. Exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi says in video message, Iran will act as a friend and stabilizing force in the region, Pavla said, and it will be a responsible partner in global security. Some big words right there. Reza Pahlavi, the exiled Iranian crown prince and opposition leader, issued a comprehensive statement outlining how Iran would conduct itself on the world stage following the fall of the Islamic Republic regime amid the ongoing popular uprising by Iranians. Under the yoke of the Islamic Republic, Iran is identified in your minds with terrorism, extremism, and poverty, Pahlavi said in his message addressed to friends around the world on his X account. The real Iran is a different Iran, a beautiful, peace-loving, and flourishing Iran. The opposition leader vowed to immediately recognize the state of Israel and suggested broadening regional treaties brokered by Donald Trump in 2020 between the Jewish state and the Muslim Arab world. A report noted, we will pursue the expansion of the Abrahamic Accords into the Cyrus Accords, bringing together a free Iran, Israel, and the Arab world, he declared, citing the name of the ancient Persian king Cyrus the Great, who led the Jews return to Zion and rebuild their temple. He characterized the new era once the Ayatollahs are gone and as the grounded in mutual recognition, sovereignty, and national interest. So whenever you see this Cyrus Accords, you need to think about the the rebuilding of the Jewish temple, because that's what Cyrus did. Cyrus allowed, you know, the Jews to go back and to rebuild their homeland. The crown prince vowed to dismantle Iran's threatening nuclear capabilities and immediately stop all aid to terrorist organizations. He assured that a liberated Iran would join forces with the regional and global partners to combat terrorism, organized crime, drug trafficking, and extreme Islamism. Iran's nuclear military program will end. Support for terrorist groups will cease immediately. He said a free Iran would work with the world rather than confront it. Iran will act as a friend and a stabilizing force in the region, Pahlavi said, and it will be a responsible partner in global security. Phew. On the subject of ties with the U.S., Pahlavi committed to normalizing relations and reviving the friendship with America and its people from before 1979 Islamic Revolution that led his family into exile. He positioned the country as a future force for food and a responsible participant in global security matters. Pahlavi outlined economic overhauls, including transparent governance, fighting money laundering, breaking up organized corruption, and opening the economy to trade, investment, and innovation, calling Iran one of the world's last great untapped markets with a population that is educated, modern, with diaspora that connects it to the four corners of the world. Wow. On energy policy, Pahlavi said Iran will become a reliable energy supplier to the free world. Policymaking will be transparent. Iran's actions will be responsible. Prices will be predictable. Crown Prince described governance reforms. Money laundering will be confronted. Organized corruption will be dismantled. Public institutions will answer to the people. This is not an abstract vision. It is a practical one, Pahlavi concluded. The fall of the Islamic Republic and the establishment of a secular democratic government in Iran will not only restore dignity to my people, it will benefit the region and the world. A free Iran will be a force for peace, for prosperity, and for partnership. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Wow. So moving on. Here he is at the wall in prayer. My goodness, he's willing to do anything. Check him out.
This is declared a historic visit. The Iranian Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi spends his third day in Israel. He already visited Yad Vashem, Israel's Holocaust Memorial, the Western Wall, met with the Israeli president and prime minister. And his mission is to present a different perspective on the Iranian people and to showcase that the current regime, the Islamic Republic, does not represent the Iranians that once had great relations with Israel before the 1979 revolution. Now, Gila Gamliel, the Israeli intelligence minister who invited or who initiated the visit of Reza Pahlavi, emphasized today, when both spoke to the press, that many Israelis' parents or grandparents still have memories from Iran and the connections, the good connections with the Iranian people, and that she envisions to restore ties in the future under a different regime. Reza Pahlavi was quite emotional when he spoke about how he was received in Israel, also by the Iranian community here. He does not have any political power. He resides in the United States as the revolution ousted his father in 1979, but he hopes for the establishment of a democracy in Iran so that people there could choose their own leaders. Now, I had the chance to ask him today about what reactions he received from Iran to his visit to Israel. Let's take a listen.
I was expecting far more of a condemnation by the regime, but I think they sort of are caught in no man's land of what exactly to think about this. On the other hand, as far as the Iranian people are concerned, they're ecstatic, they're enthusiastic, they're happy that finally they're represented in a different light. Something that's been dying to tell the world, we are not terrorists, the regime is. We are friends of any nation that respects our sovereignty and our right to freedom and democracy. And especially when we think in this Middle East that Israel is the country that is an example for democracy, where there is freedom, where there is liberty. Why would I want this country to find out about their desires? And there's been a lot of messaging again
Don't rely on my words. Just search social media. See what people say to each other. Israelis to Iranians and vice versa. On Twitter, on Instagram, on any platform. If you do your due diligence, you don't need to ask me the question. The answer is right out there in front of your eyes.
Later in the day, Minister Gamliel and Crown Prince Pahlavi will visit a water desalination factory in Israel, as both said environmental challenges were a joint regional challenge. Reza Pahlavi is not an elected representative of the Iranian people, but he's carrying a message of hope that in the future, the two people of rival regimes, Israel and Iran, will come closer together as the current Iranian regime might lose its power. This is Pia Shtekova for I-24 News from Tel Aviv.
So, in closing, let's listen to this guy and see what he has to say about what the Cyrus Accords are rather quickly.
So the Cyrus Accords are a proposed framework for the day after the Islamic Republic. So the Cyrus Accords, they're not a signed thing, like a legitimate official document. This is a proposition that could be reality. And it's going to be reality, in my opinion, if Reza gets to be the leader of Iran. And what's interesting about Reza's ideology is that he wants to have peace with Israel. That's what the Cyrus Accords are all about, because it's based upon Cyrus the Great. And so Reza is looking at their past, and he recognizes that in their past history, a guy named Cyrus the Great was an Iranian king. And that Iranian king that they have come to love also helped out the Jewish people. They were allies with the Jewish people. They freed the Jewish people from captivity and let them go back to rebuild the third temple, or the second temple. And so that's what Reza seems to be pulling from here when he's talking about the Cyrus Accords. He wants peace with Israel, and that is significant, because if Reza becomes the leader of Iran, he will full send the Cyrus Accords to make it a reality. President Trump will catch on to this, which is something he wants, because the Abraham Accords already exist. And since the Abraham Accords already exist, the Cyrus Accords would basically be injecting steroids into the Abraham Accords, because there's already 5 or so nations that have signed on to the Abraham Accords, which means that there's a few Arab nations that have agreed with peace with Israel. But the problem is that there's a whole bunch of other Arab nations that don't want peace with Israel. And here's where it gets interesting, because if Iran loses their leadership right now and Reza takes power, well, then he is going to make this a reality. And if Iran gets on board and makes peace with Israel, well, then Saudi Arabia will have very little reasons to not also join the Abraham Accords or the Cyrus Accords, whatever it's going to be called at that point. And then if Iran joins and if Saudi Arabia joins, then all the other Middle East Arab nations will also most likely join as well. And if that happens, then that is going to be really difficult for Israel to not agree to give up some of its land if it means that there's going to be peace in the Middle East. And so this is all just a scenario that I've been running around in my own mind, because I don't know how it's going to play out. But this seems like it could fit, right? Because it tracks with what's the forecast in the news right now. There's all kinds of chaos going on over the Middle East. And right now the world's paying attention to Iran. And Reza even made a whole speech about the Cyrus Accords, and you can go check it out here if you would like to. But he has a whole ideology, a path to the Cyrus Accords, and this was posted on May 26, 2025. And so last time we did a video on this was probably back in July. And so this idea is not going away. And so right now, since we see the Iranian regime seems to be collapsing, well, if it does collapse, that would benefit America. And it wouldn't just benefit America, it would also benefit Israel. And so you got to know that whatever's going to happen, you can bet that America and Israel is going to try to make this actually take place, because of how difficult Iran has been.